High above Earth's atmosphere, surveillance specialist Zeknar completed another scan of the planet below, their crystalline sensors pulsing with confusion. After 3 cycles of observation, something wasn't adding up. The numbers were wrong. They had to be wrong. Central Command, requesting verification of historical data. Zeknar transmitted, their communication peppered with uncertainty harmonics. Something about these readings doesn't align with our previous assessments. The response came back almost immediately. Historical data verified and unchanged. Specialist. Earth remains a Category 3 developing world, barely achieving rudimentary space travel. What seems to be the issue? Zeknar's sensory frills twitched as they analyzed the latest readings. The energy signatures command. They're inconsistent. When I conduct standard atmospheric analysis, everything matches our records perfectly. But when I run deep spectrum scans, I'm detecting phantom traces that shouldn't exist. Elaborate. Specialist. The humans are broadcasting exactly what we expect to see. Their satellite network, their power grid, their military installations, everything appears precisely as a Category 3 civilization should appear. It's too perfect. Zeknar adjusted their scanning frequencies. It's as if someone arranged all the furniture in a room to look exactly like the reference image, without any of the natural disorder that comes from actual use. The silence from command stretched longer than usual. When the response came, it carried undertones of dismissal. Your observation period has been extensive, specialist. Perhaps you're seeking patterns where none exist. But Zeknar couldn't shake the feeling that they were missing something crucial. They had studied thousands of developing civilizations during their career, and none had ever felt this. Choreographed. The humans conducted their space programs with a peculiar inefficiency, launching rockets that burned primitive chemical fuels. Their orbital stations were small and seemingly limited. Their global communications relied on easily disruptible satellite networks. Everything about their civilization screamed vulnerability and technological immaturity. Yet, Zeknar focused their sensors on a supposedly abandoned mining complex in what the humans called Nevada. For a brief moment, their instruments detected a power surge that rivaled the output of a small star before it vanished as if it had never existed. Command, I'm registering anomalous energy spikes across multiple locations. They're brief, almost impossible to detect unless you're looking at exactly the right moment with exactly the right instruments. Zeknar's report grew more urgent. I believe the humans are aware of our surveillance and are actively masking their true capabilities. Impossible, Command responded. Their technological level has been confirmed by multiple independent observations. The Drachnid Empire itself conducted a thorough assessment just 2 cycles ago. Are you suggesting that a primitive species has somehow fooled the entire galactic community? Yes, Zeknar transmitted bluntly. And I believe they've been doing it for a very long time. The specialist began compiling their evidence. Subtle gravitational distortions around military bases that suggested hidden underground complexes far larger than officially acknowledged. Periodic electromagnetic pulses that hinted at experimental quantum communications networks. Atmospheric disturbances consistent with advanced propulsion testing. They're building something down there, Zeknar continued. Something big, and they're going to extraordinary lengths to hide it. Command's response dripped with skepticism. The humans can barely reach their own moon. Their weapon systems rely on kinetic projectiles and chemical explosives. Their cities would fall to a single orbital bombardment. What possible threat could they pose? That's just it, Command. I don't think they're as defenseless as they want us to believe. Look at their historical records. These people have been fighting wars among themselves for their entire recorded history. They understand strategy, deception, and the advantage of appearing weak when you are strong. Zeknar transmitted a final data packet. I'm detecting signs of artificial structures buried beneath every major mountain range on the planet. Their ocean floors are riddled with energy signatures that our sensors can barely perceive. And their lunar installations. Command, I don't believe those are actually mining operations. Enough. Command cut in. You're allowing paranoid speculation to cloud your judgment. The humans are precisely what our records show them to be. A young, struggling species barely worth monitoring. Your observation period is hereby terminated. Return to base for debriefing. Zeknar began powering down their surveillance equipment, but not before capturing one final scan. As their sensors swept across Earth's night side, they caught a glimpse of something that chilled them to their core. A massive structure, briefly visible in the thermosphere, before sophisticated cloaking technology rendered it invisible once more. As they prepared to break orbit, Zeknar added a personal note to their final report. The humans are not primitive. They're preparing. And I fear that by the time we realize what they've been building, it will be too late. The report was filed away, marked as the ramblings of an overworked surveillance specialist. 3 days later, the Drachnid Empire's Supreme Council approved plans for what they believed would be a simple operation to claim Earth's resources. They had no way of knowing that they were about to discover exactly why humanity had worked so hard to appear defenseless. And deep beneath the Pacific Ocean, in a command center that officially didn't exist, a human general watched Zeknar's ship depart and smiled. They never learn, do they? She mused before turning to her staff. Sound the alert. Operation Paper Dragon is now active. They'll be back, and this time, they're going to bring an invasion fleet. Around her, kilometers of advanced technology hummed to life, as humanity prepared to reveal just how badly the galaxy had underestimated them. Supreme Commander Vexthor of the Drachnid Empire stood on the bridge of his flagship, the inevitable Victory, as 10,000 warships prepared to enter Earth's solar system. His mandibles clicked with anticipation. This would be the easiest conquest of his career. Launch the first wave, he ordered. Standard subjugation protocol. Disable their primitive communications networks, then target their military installations. I want this done quickly and efficiently. The invasion fleet emerged from hyperspace in perfect formation, their weapons charged and ready to unleash devastation. But as they approached Earth's orbit, something unexpected happened. Nothing. No defensive satellites. No primitive warships rushing to meet them. Not even an attempt at communication. Earth hung in space, seemingly defenseless, its night side glittering with city lights. Supreme Commander, his tactical officer called out, "We're detecting no military response. Their orbital stations are maintaining regular operations. They don't appear to have even noticed our arrival." Vexthor's inner eyelids narrowed. This wasn't right. Even the most primitive civilizations usually manage some form of response. Begin the first phase. Target their satellite networks. The order went out, and hundreds of energy beams lanced toward Earth's communications satellites. But at the last possible moment, something impossible happened. The beams passed through the satellites as if they weren't there. Holograms. Vexthor whispered, just as his tactical display erupted with warnings. The primitive satellites shimmered and vanished, revealing advanced weapons platforms that had been perfectly camouflaged. Before the Drachnid fleet could react, the platforms opened fire, but instead of conventional weapons, they released waves of quantum-entangled particles that rippled through space. Ship after ship in the Drachnid fleet suddenly lost power, their advanced systems corrupted by technology that shouldn't have existed. Vexthor watched in horror as a third of his fleet went dark in seconds. "Impossible," he roared. Their technology level was confirmed. They shouldn't have quantum weaponry. Multiple new contacts. His sensor officer screamed. Rising from Earth's oceans, launching from underground bases, emerging from lunar installations. The human fleet revealed itself at last, and it was unlike anything the Drachnids had ever encountered. Their ships weren't the brute force battlecruisers favored by most species. Instead, they were sleek, asymmetrical vessels that seemed to bend both light and space around them. "This is General Sarah Chen of Earth's Combined Defense Force." A transmission cut through their communications. "I'd say we're sorry for the deception, but honestly, you should have listened to your surveillance specialist." Vexthor recognized the reference to Zeknar's dismissed warnings, But he had no time to dwell on it. His remaining ships were under attack from weapons that defied conventional physics. Human vessels phased through solid matter, appearing inside his fleet's formation. Their weapons didn't just destroy. They rewrote the basic properties of space-time around their targets. "Fall back," he ordered. "Regroup at the outer system." But retreat proved impossible. Hidden gravitational anchors activated throughout the solar system, creating a web of distorted space that trapped his fleet in place. The humans had turned their entire solar system into an elaborate trap. A new transmission reached his bridge, this time from a vessel that suddenly appeared directly alongside the inevitable victory. "You know what your biggest mistake was?" the human commander asked conversationally. "You assumed that because we hadn't joined your precious galactic community, we weren't advancing. The truth is, we've been watching, learning, and preparing for centuries." Vexthor watched as more human ships emerged from hidden bases across their system. Each one demonstrated technology that seamlessly blended principles from a dozen different alien civilizations with innovations that were uniquely human. "Your second mistake," the transmission continued, "was assuming that our apparent vulnerability was weakness. We learned long ago that the best way to survive in a hostile universe was to make sure no one saw us as a threat. Every primitive rocket launch, every clumsy satellite deployment, every seemingly limited space station, it was all theater, performed for an audience that was too arrogant to look closer." The remaining Drachnid ships found themselves herded into a containment field, their weapons and engines nullified by technology that, according to every Imperial database, shouldn't exist for at least another 1,000 years. In his final transmission before surrender, Vexthor asked the question that burned in his mind. "How? How did you hide all of this?" The answer came back with what he could have sworn was amusement. "We didn't hide our technology, Commander. We hid our understanding. Every alien race we encountered showed us a piece of the puzzle: gravity manipulation from the Hexarchath, quantum mechanics from the Tevin, dark energy from the Nur. We simply took those pieces and assembled them in ways none of you imagined possible. While you were watching our rockets, you should have been watching our scientists." As the human fleet surrounded his surviving ships, Vexthor realized that the galaxy's understanding of Earth would never be the same. The humans hadn't just prepared for invasion. They had orchestrated their own revelation, choosing the perfect moment to show the galaxy exactly what humanity was capable of. And this, he realized with growing dread, was only the beginning. The news of the Drachnid Empire's defeat spread through the galaxy like a shockwave. In the great halls of the Galactic Council, representatives from 100 species argued about what this revelation meant for the balance of power. But for Admiral Marcus Rodriguez, standing in Earth's recently revealed Titan base beneath Saturn's largest moon, the galaxy's political turmoil was exactly what humanity had planned for. "Status report," he commanded, watching as holographic displays showed the position of every ship in Earth's now revealed defense force. "The Drachnid fleet remains contained, sir," his XO reported. "More importantly, our deep space sensors are tracking massive fleet movements across 3 sectors. The vultures are circling." Rodriguez nodded. The defeat of the Drachnid Empire's invasion force wasn't the end. It was merely the opening move in a much larger game. Other powers would now see Earth as either a threat to be eliminated or a prize to be claimed. They would come in force, expecting to face the same level of technology that had repelled the Drachnids. They were in for a surprise. "Begin Phase 2, Rodriguez ordered. "Deploy the Phantom Fleet." Across the solar system, a new class of vessels emerged from their hidden docks. Unlike the defensive fleet that had repelled the Drachnids, these ships were built for a single purpose: projection of power. Each one carried technology that humanity had held in reserve, saving their most advanced innovations for the counterattack they knew would be necessary. "Message from Lunar Command," his communications officer announced. "The Arcturus Initiative is ready for deployment." Rodriguez allowed himself a small smile. For centuries, humanity had maintained the illusion of division. separate nations, competing interests, limited cooperation. But beneath that carefully crafted facade, Earth's nations had worked together in perfect secrecy, pooling their resources and expertise toward a single goal: survival in a hostile galaxy. The Arcturus Initiative was the culmination of that collaboration. It wasn't just a weapons platform or a defense system. It was a fundamental reimagining of how space warfare could be conducted. Multiple contacts. The sensor officer's voice carried an edge of excitement. 3 separate battle fleets just entered the Kuiper Belt. Configuration matches hegemony warships. The hegemony, an alliance of aggressive species that had been waiting for an excuse to expand their territory. They would have studied the reports from the Drachnid defeat, analyzed every piece of technology humanity had revealed, and developed countermeasures. All according to plan. Launch the resonance pods, Rodriguez commanded. Let's show them what humanity's second act looks like. Across the void of space, thousands of small, seemingly unarmed pods accelerated toward the incoming hegemony fleets. The enemy ships registered them as debris or decoys, right until the moment the pods activated. What happened next defied conventional physics. Each pod created a localized field that amplified the fundamental forces of reality: gravity, electromagnetism, the strong and weak nuclear forces. Ships caught in these fields found their own technology turned against them, their advanced power systems becoming deadly liabilities. Enemy fleet is fragmenting, Tactical reported. Their formations are breaking down. Their shields are inverting. Their weapons are powering down. Rodriguez watched as the mighty hegemony armada discovered what the Drachnids had learned too late. Humanity hadn't just been developing technology. They had been revolutionizing their understanding of how reality itself worked. "Open a channel to all hegemony vessels," he ordered. When the connection was established, his voice carried across space with careful measure. "This is Admiral Rodriguez of Earth's Combined Defense Force. You came here expecting to face the technology we revealed during the Drachnid invasion. That was your first mistake. Your second was assuming that we showed you everything we had." The hegemony fleet, their ships now drifting powerless in space, could only watch as Earth's Phantom fleet moved into position. These vessels didn't behave like normal ships. They seemed to exist in multiple places simultaneously, their very presence warping the fabric of space-time. "For centuries," Rodriguez continued, "we studied every species that came across our path. We learned your strengths, your weaknesses, your assumptions about how technology should work. Then we threw out those assumptions and started from scratch. Everything you think you know about physics, we've moved beyond it. Every limitation you think exists, we've transcended it." The Phantom Fleet began systematic capture of the hegemony vessels, using technology that simply hadn't existed in the galaxy until this moment. It wasn't just advanced, it was revolutionary, the product of humanity's greatest minds working without the constraints of conventional galactic thinking. "We could have revealed ourselves centuries ago," Rodriguez explained to his captive audience. "We could have joined your galactic council, shared our discoveries, become part of your power structure. But we saw how you treated primitive species. We saw how the strong dominated the weak. So we waited, we watched, and we prepared." As the last hegemony ship was secured, Rodriguez delivered the message that would reshape galactic politics forever. "Earth isn't joining your galactic community. We're redefining it. The age of empire is over. The age of innovation has begun." Throughout the galaxy, species that had dismissed humanity as primitive now watched in growing alarm as Earth's true capabilities were revealed. But for those who had suffered under the dominion of empires and hegemonies, humanity's emergence offered something new: hope. The game had changed, and the galaxy would never be the same. The Grand Chamber of the Galactic Council had never been so silent. Representatives from over 1,000 civilizations watched as Ambassador Elena Santos of Earth took the podium, not as a petitioner seeking membership, but as the voice of a power that had reshaped galactic politics overnight. "For millennia," she began, her voice carrying through the vast chamber, The galaxy has operated on a simple principle: the strong dictate terms to the weak. We're here to tell you that this era is over. The chamber erupted in a mixture of outrage and nervous murmuring. A Drachnid representative rose to object, but froze as holographic displays activated throughout the chamber, showing real-time footage of Earth's Phantom Fleet conducting operations across dozen sectors simultaneously. While you watched our primitive rockets and smiled at our clumsy attempts at space travel, Alina continued, we were building something unprecedented. A network of alliances with species you'd written off as insignificant. The displays shifted, revealing hundreds of supposedly primitive worlds, each now hosting advanced human technology freely shared with their populations. Species that had been dismissed as backward or unworthy of attention were suddenly unveiling capabilities that rivaled the greatest powers in the galaxy. You never wondered, Alina said, her voice carrying a hint of amusement, why so many primitive worlds seemed to develop along similar lines, why their technology appeared to progress so slowly. The truth is, Earth wasn't hiding alone. We were helping others hide too, building a coalition of the overlooked and underestimated. The XR ambassador, representing one of the galaxy's oldest civilizations, rose to speak. You claim to oppose empire building, yet you've secretly armed hundreds of worlds. How does this make you different from those you criticize? Alina's smile was gentle but firm. Because we didn't give them weapons, Ambassador. We gave them knowledge, understanding, the ability to develop their own technology, free from the constraints of galactic orthodoxy. Every world in our alliance developed their own unique solutions to universal problems. We simply showed them that the impossible was possible. The chamber's displays updated again, showing technological achievements that defied conventional understanding. Worlds that had seemed centuries away from achieving spaceflight were now revealing innovations that made traditional faster-than-light travel obsolete. Your empires are built on control, Alina explained. Ours is built on collaboration. Every species brings unique perspectives, unique ways of thinking. By working together, hidden from your notice, we've achieved things that none of us could have managed alone. A representative from the hegemony stepped forward, their voice heavy with threat. You realize this means war. The combined might off. No, Alina cut them off. It doesn't. Because while you were watching our visible fleet, you weren't watching what else we were doing. She gestured and new holographic displays activated, showing massive structures throughout galaxy, structures that had been invisible until this moment. We call it the Liberation Grid, she said, a network of quantum-linked stations that can shut down military technology across entire sectors. We've spent centuries building it, hiding it in plain sight. Right now, it's preventing any military vessel in this sector from powering their weapons. The chamber erupted in chaos as species after species confirmed that their military capabilities had indeed been neutralized. But Alina wasn't finished. But that's not why we're here. We're here to offer a choice. Continue as you have, treating lesser-developed species as resources to be exploited, and you'll find your empires increasingly unable to function. Or join us in building something new, a galaxy where advancement comes through cooperation, not conquest. She gestured again, and the hologram showed something new, worlds where different species work together, sharing knowledge and resources freely. This is what we've been building toward. Not an empire of human dominance, but a network of equals, each contributing their unique perspectives to solve the challenges that face us all. The chamber fell silent as the implications sank in. Humanity hadn't just hidden their technology. They'd created an entirely new power structure, one that made traditional empires obsolete. The choice is yours, Alina concluded. But know this, the age of treating developing civilizations as prey is over. Earth and our allies stand ready to ensure that every species has the chance to develop on their own terms, free from interference or exploitation. As the council chamber descended into intense debate, Alina smiled quietly. Phase 4 was complete. The galaxy was beginning to understand that humanity's greatest weapon had never been their technology. It had been their ability to unite the overlooked and forgotten, building strength through diversity rather than dominance. The real revolution was just beginning. 1 year after humanity's revelation to the Galactic Council, Dr. Aisha Patel stood at the window of the newly constructed Harmony Station, watching ships from 100 different species dock at its massive ports. But these weren't military vessels or trade ships. They were research vessels, diplomatic shuttles, and cultural exchange craft. Director Patel, her AI assistant, chimed, "The first session of the Galactic Innovation Summit is ready to begin." Aisha turned from the window, observing the massive conference chamber that represented humanity's true victory. Not the defeat of empires or the revelation of hidden technology, but this, representatives from across the galaxy, gathering to share knowledge freely. "Status report on the transition," she asked, walking toward the chamber. 87% of former Imperial worlds have accepted membership in the cooperative, the AI reported. The Liberation Grid has been activated only 3 times in the past month, compared to daily activations during the initial phase. Most significantly, spontaneous technological innovation is up 800% across former restricted worlds. Aisha nodded, satisfaction evident in her expression. The Liberation Grid had been crucial in the beginning, preventing the old powers from reasserting control through military force. But its greatest achievement wasn't in what it stopped, but in what it allowed to start. She entered the chamber to find it already buzzing with activity. A former Drachnid military engineer was deep in discussion with a scientist from what had once been considered a primitive world. Their conversation centered on combining their unique approaches to quantum mechanics. Nearby, a group of children from various species attended a lesson on cross-cultural problem-solving. "Welcome to the 3rd Galactic Innovation Summit," Aisha announced, taking the podium. "A year ago, many of you wouldn't have been allowed in the same room together. Today, you're creating the future." The chamber quieted, attention focusing on her words. Humanity's greatest achievement wasn't our technology. It wasn't our ability to hide or to fight. It was our understanding that true advancement comes from diversity, of thought, of approach, of perspective. Holographic displays activated, showing the progress of what had become known as the Great Collaboration. Worlds that had been deliberately kept technologically stunted were now producing innovations that stunned their former oppressors. Species that had been told they were too primitive to understand advanced concepts were revolutionizing those very fields. "The old empires believed that power came from control," Aisha continued. "They were wrong. Power comes from freedom. The freedom to think differently, to question established principles, to imagine new possibilities." She gestured to a group of young aliens using a human-designed educational interface. "This is why we hid for so long. Not just to protect ourselves, but to perfect a system that could replace the old order. We needed to prove that cooperation was stronger than dominance." The displays shifted to show the latest breakthrough. A fusion of technologies from 12 different species that had created the first successful bioorganic starship. It wasn't human technology, or Drachnid, or any other single species. It was something entirely new, born from collaboration. "But our work isn't finished," Aisha advised. "There are still powers that cling to the old ways, worlds that suffer under oppression, species yet to be discovered. Our task now is to ensure that every civilization has the chance we created for ourselves, the chance to develop without interference, to contribute their unique perspective to our shared future." A former hegemony scientist raised their hand. "How can you be certain this system will last? That some new power won't rise to dominate others?" Aisha smiled. "Because we're not enforcing peace through strength. We're making war obsolete through progress. When every species is free to innovate, to share their discoveries, to build on each other's achievements, the very concept of technological supremacy becomes meaningless." She gestured one final time, and the chamber's displays showed the ultimate fruit of humanity's long deception. A galaxy transforming not through conquest or control, but through the unleashed potential of countless minds working together. This is what Earth was protecting all those centuries, she concluded. Not just our own freedom to develop, but the possibility of this moment, when every species, regardless of their origin or current advancement, would have the opportunity to contribute to our shared future. As the summit began in earnest, with groups breaking off into passionate discussions and impromptu collaboration sessions, Aisha returned to her window. The stars looked different now, she thought. Not distant points of light to be feared or conquered, but bridges between civilizations, each one contributing its unique brilliance to the grand tapestry of galactic civilization. Humanity's greatest deception had revealed an eternal truth. The universe was vast enough for every voice to be heard, every perspective to be valued, every dream to be pursued. They had hidden their strength not to dominate, but to create a galaxy where strength itself was measured not in weapons or territory, but in the ability to imagine, to create, and to share. The age of empires was over. The age of collaboration had begun, and the galaxy would never be the same.